Councillors, we'll declare the meeting open at 1 p.m. and just start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land in which we gather, and I pay respects to their elders past and present. Also, just a quick reminder for the members of the public in the gallery that you are covered under the Section 32 of the Standing Orders, and all members of the public present at a meeting must, not without prior approval of chairperson, make any audio or video recording or take any photographs. Remain quiet, not disrupt the meeting in any way, not bring into the meeting any signs, placards or items that may cause a hazard or interfere with any person present. Be suitably dressed to turn all mobile devices to silent mode and leave the meeting to take any calls. As chairperson, it is my responsibility to warn a member of the public present at a meeting who is not complying with any of these requirements and may, with or without such warning, require the person to leave the meeting and not return for such period as the chairperson decides, and this period may include future meetings. We have a full quota of councillors today, so there are no leaves of absence. Council, just a reminder of your material personal interest and conflict of interest responsibilities under the Local Government Act. I'm sure you're all aware of those. And with that, we head into the business of the meeting, and what I might do to get things started, I'll hand over to the CEO and then over to Kim Kerwin to present the document. Thank you, Bill.
Councillors, just a little bit of technicalities here, and we'll be getting some detailed legal advice out to you. I would remind you that during the debate today, you are still bound by resolution from the 22nd of November around confidentiality of the plan. So I would encourage you not to speak specifics around that until the 14th, when the plan goes out for public consultation. So we've sought legal advice around that, and I would just remind you that that is the resolution that stands. And that is not meant to gag or anything along those lines. It is just what we have in the resolutions and the public consultation, and we will provide you with all the advice that you need for that. And that would also just remind you that until the plan is available for public consultation on the 14th, I would encourage you to retain that confidentiality as well. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Bill. I'll hand over to Kim Kerwin to present. Oh, pardon me, Councillor Elliott.
Yeah, through you to Bill, there was an email I saw that said till the beginning of the meeting, because I came prepared, you know. I thought it was to the beginning of the meeting, it remained confidential, then it was right to go. As soon as the meeting was open. Only the Minister's letter? Could I have a clarification?
That was the Minister's letter.
Just the Minister's?
As I understand it, yeah. Now, we've sought legal advice, and I will be giving that to you after you've passed, subject to you passing the resolution today with Andrew. So that's the advice we have, which has been checked by King & Co and is normal procedure over the last planning scheme as well. Until it was out to public consultation, it was confidential.
Kim, would you like to present? And just to remind councillors, today's motion or proposal is about the consultation of the draft City Plan 2015. So, Kim?
Thank you, Mayor. Councillors, the report before you is a recommendation to proceed to public consultation on the draft Redland City Plan 2015. This represents a major milestone in the process of preparing a new planning scheme and follows approval from the Deputy Premier and Planning Minister to publicly consult on the scheme. Council resolved in October 2013 to prepare a new planning scheme, and a draft scheme was submitted to the Planning Minister in November of last year for state interest review. On the 20th of August 2015, the Minister wrote advising Council that it could now publicly consult on the proposed planning scheme subject to conditions, and the Minister's letter is an attachment to the report. The conditions specifically relate to removal of the proposed rural residential zone from the planning scheme, the identification of an area bounded by Taylor Road, Woodlands Drive and Springacre Road within the Thornlands area be identified as a possible option for longer-term future urban growth, the inclusion of this area and southern Redland Bay on the strategic framework map as future urban growth investigation areas, and a second condition that overlay maps identifying potential bushfire and erosion-prone area hazards be replaced with the latest state hazard mapping. So, councillors, the next step in the scheme-making process is to proceed to public notification on the draft planning scheme after complying with the Minister's conditions. So the report before you sets out council's options, and they're set out under the state guideline 414, making and amending local planning instruments. And just to step you through those options, on page 5 of the agenda, the Council carry out public consultation about the draft Redland City Plan 2015 for a public consultation period of 30 business days, commencing on the 14th of September 2015, in accordance with section 118B(1) of the Sustainable Planning Act 2009 and the Statutory Planning Guideline, after complying with the conditions imposed by the Deputy Premier and Minister for Planning. So that first option is what's expressed in legislation and in the statutory guidelines, that the public consultation period must be for a minimum of 30 business days, and that equates to 6 weeks. The second option before you is to carry out the public consultation. Again, the recommended commencement date is the 14th of September, and that is the recommendation is that that public consultation be carried out for a period of more than 30 business days. And the third option available to Council is that Council may resolve not to proceed to carry out public consultation about the draft Redland City Plan. So they're the 3 options that are presented. The recommendation is consistent with the legislation, and that is that the public consultation be carried out for a period of 30 business days. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll hand over to Chair, Portfolio Spokesperson Julie Tolte. You can move the motion, Councillor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to move an alternative recommendation. We have it up there on the screen. It's part of one of the officer's recommendations, but it's not the one that is in the motion. Do I need a seconder before I speak to it, Madam Mayor?
Seconder for that? Sorry, Councillor Edwards. You want to speak to it, Councillor Tolte?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. So the motion that is before councillors is option 2 in the report, which is to carry out public consultation about the Redland City Plan 2015, the proposed planning scheme for a public consultation period of more than 30 days. And then point 2, you'll see there, sets a completion date for public consultation of the 27th of November. I came about at the date of the 27th of November because that is the last Friday in November where it is practicable for officers to be able to be available to help the community in understanding the plan before we move into school holiday period. It provides a public consultation period 50% greater than is what is required under the legislation, and is approximately 11 weeks. I'd like to speak to the matter in hand. So, councillors, the report before you is a recommendation to go out to public consultation on the draft city plan. This represents a major milestone in the process of preparing a new planning scheme for Redland City and follows approval from the Deputy Premier and Planning Minister to publicly consult on the scheme. The draft city plan carries forward important policy directions from the current scheme, updated with new data from council, commission studies and new state mapping, and has put these into a standard format required by the state government. The new plan that we're putting out to public consultation, assuming approval today, is designed to be user-friendly and in an easy-to-understand format. It is aimed at building confidence for the community, and it's about having the right balance, planning for growth in a balanced and responsive way. Taken on board, the plan has taken on board input over the last 3 years from a wide range of stakeholders, and the Redland City Plan is about the future of Redlands, which is why we are committed to a solid program of community consultation. It will be the blueprint for managing growth and change in the city, and the public consultation stage is the opportunity for the community to help us to identify where we can continue to improve and refine the plan. If I can call councillors' attention to the report, on page 4, there's a section under risk management, which assigns a level of the level of interest in the community in publicly consulting on the plan is regarded as overriding the risk of the consultation taking place while the state government is consulting on the proposed new planning bill and any unknown consequences of the new legislation. And you will note that one of the options put forward by officers, option 3, is that the council resolves not to proceed to carry out public consultation. So these matters sit together, and it has been, or I'm proposing to you that we do go out to public consultation, because the risk that is noted here is that with the new state legislation still in planning and not fully known, there may be changes that have to be made to the plan in the future, which will require possibly further public consultation next year or the year after. But as that's an unknown at this point, and the community's already been waiting 11 months for us to have this approval from the state government to go out to public consultation, the risk is considered to be overridden by the public interest. And with regard to the next point in the report, the financial implications of the report, it will come forward through further work that we have been designing a considerable raft of measures to be able to provide access to the plan by members of the public through planning sessions in our libraries, in our shopping centres, in divisions, through planners visiting and people visiting planners right across the city. So I think that the program will be extensive, and people will find that they do have an opportunity, particularly with an extended period of time for public consultation, to get involved, to be able to really understand the plan with professional advice from planners, and to be able to make informed submissions. So I recommend the proposal and the motion as it's put to councillors. Thank you.
Councillor Tolty, just a correction, I think, on your math. I think it's more than 50%. It's almost double the period.
Sorry, thank you.
Councillor Ogilvie, speaker against.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Just a point of clarification rather than speaking against necessarily, because I thought the officer's recommendation was actually option 1, which is a consultation period of 30 business days, as opposed to option 2. So I don't know which one the...
Move to.
Oh, okay.
So it's as on the board, councillor.
So it's more than 30 business days, so going to the end of November.
Yeah, as she said.
Fantastic. I'll be voting for it.
As she said, councillor, I think the time was around school holidays and the availability of officers, because this will be a fairly intense time for planners to be around the city speaking to residents. So
that date, councillor, is the last day before everyone's on school holidays, basically.
Yep, no, great. I'll be voting for it. Thank you very much.
Just if I stand corrected, Kim, nod if I'm wrong, it's 54 business days, I think, is the new date.
That's correct. It's 54 business days, there being one public holiday in October. That doesn't count.
Question, councillor Boglary?
Like we mentioned in the workshops, at any stage, so if we find that the community needs more time, it can still be extended, can't it? Or by putting this deadline on it, we're stopping it altogether?
You could bring a motion to council, but I would suggest that you got to consider the time it's going to take to also collate.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, but I mean, if there is a huge, you know, groundswell of people still needing more time, it is possible to do it. We're not deadlocked into this time, are we?
I'll get Kim to respond. I don't believe we're locked into it, no.
Under the legislation, council has to set the public consultation period, which has a start date and an end date, and all the material that's being prepared will include those dates. So, as it's been indicated, it is 11 weeks. It's not to say that that can't happen. It's simply that an 11-week period is being proposed. And
look, I'm happy to vote for it now that we've extended that time, because I think just about every councillor in the workshops thought 30 days was going to be not enough anyway, except for one. But I just want to make sure that it is possible. So, yep, that's great. We've extended it, but if some unforeseen circumstances happen and we feel we need more, we can extend it. So that's all I wanted to know. Thank you. By resolution of council. Yep. Thank you.
I guess the message, council, would be that we encourage everyone, as soon as the documents are available right across the city, to become involved. We're taking a roadshow around town, and you know, we want the urgency to be there to do it as soon as possible so officers can get on. This is a process that's been in place for almost 3 years, as you would know. We've sat around this room, so hopefully we can give some certainty to the community moving forward with... Well, yeah. Speaker against, anybody? Questions? Question, Councillor Bishop?
Thank you very much. Yeah, pleased to see an extension in time frame. One of the things that councillors are aware of is that there is going to be extensive consultation that's planned. Certainly was planned for those first 30 days. Just wondering if we need to touch on that. At this point, Councillor Tulty, have you any information about extending those bigger consultation days, which were the real... we had 5 of those across the city. I'm just wondering if we're going to be doubling that amount of extensive consultations with resourcing with officers. I just wouldn't want to see the time frame extended without that access.
It's probably a question for the CEO and Kim.
Councillors, as this is different to our planning, we will have to have a look at that, but given the extra days, yes, there will be extra sessions, those sort of things. It's just around officers' availabilities and those type of things, but I'd imagine now that we've gone to 54 days, there will be not as compressed a time frame, and so we should be able to accommodate additional ones as needed, but it does come with extra resources and constraints, and I think Kim's planning those at the moment. Kim, you got any comments?
The comment I'd make there is that the program is for 5 major events across the city. They're the Flagstone key events. In addition to that, there will be a range of supporting opportunities that can extend through and beyond that period. So it by no means sort of cuts off the time within which all activities are going to take place. But they may be other than those, 3-day forums, which are really already geographically across the city. The idea was to have those early enough so that people can get the information, then go away, then make further inquiries online and or one-on-one with council officers, and then prepare an informed submission.
Councillor Bishop, I think in fairness to the officers, because they have to go away now with this time frame and come up with what they're going to do, and I see our communications team is in the back, rather than trying to do this on the run, the officers will, the officers who work in that space consistently will put together a program accordingly.
Can I just make a suggestion that that we, given that this is the first time we've gone out to consultation, that we just give an equal amount of resourcing to that aspect as we have time, so that if we need to look at extending those and making them, I'd just like to test other councillors' support for that.
We're not testing that here today, councillors. I'm going to let the officers go away, the guys that work in this space, and come back with their proposed program accordingly, because we'll all have 10 different views. And today we're here about setting the time of consultation, the time frame as required under the legislation, and we can have further discussions with officers as to how they use their resources across that time. Any other questions or comments, councillors? Oh, Councillor Elliott, my apologies.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to tell the public that the city plan is a guide, and this is my opinion. It is a guide to development. It's a bit like the Old Forest Gump, Planning schemes are like a box of chocolates these days. You're not sure what you're going to get in the end. So we can't be hard and fast on development. So be wary. This is a guide only. See how it goes. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Elliott. I think to add to that, that's the legislative regime that we work under, performance-based planning. It's something that we struggle with sometimes as a community and as councillors, but unfortunately that's legislated by the state. So I think Councillor Elliott's right on the mark when he says it's a fairly subjective document, and it changes with the time as well. So any other questions? I'll hand back to Councillor Tulty to sum up.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, I recommend the motion to councillors. It is the maximum period that we can accommodate this year. Unfortunately, we would have been able to accommodate longer had the state returned the permission earlier. Unfortunately, we did wait some 11 months for that permission. I won't go into it now, but I'm extremely disappointed that the Minister has directed changes that are particular to my divisional area. although I do feel that the updating of the overlay maps from a state perspective was appropriate. So I recommend to the councillors that they support this recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Talty. I'll put the vote. Those in favour? Those against? Motion is carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. That concludes our business for this special meeting, and I close the meeting at 1:21. Thank you.